Hey friends, this is not a recording. This is just the current NHL playoff format. The Edmonton Oilers will face the LA Kings for the fourth year in a row to open up the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs in round number one. The Oilers, while they're doing something pretty dramatic compared to the last few years, they are limping their way to the finish line this year. 5 out of a possible 6 points, including a regulation win over top of the LA Kings, would secure the Edmonton Oilers home ice advantage in this year's first round. That said, who knows what's going to happen again still as well. Calgary Flames still in the race, so it's as good of your guess as it is mine to figure out exactly how the next week will play out. We've got the final Sunday of NHL action today, and then of course we go through the rest of the week and get this done. And like I said, the Oilers, they are limping to the finish line here. Rumors yesterday, news yesterday, whatever you want to call it, that Matthias Ekholm might not be available until next year following the game against San Jose on Saturday. So there's a lot to get to. Let's discuss that in a matter of moments. But if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button here on the channel. Not sure what the playoffs are going to look like I said, but we will definitely have coverage no matter what. So, as the Oilers, well, we know the LA Kings, like I said, the opponent for round one. But yeah, the Oilers have a lot of work to do in the next 3 games if they want home ice, but they also have a lot of work to do even if they don't get home ice and just have to face LA straight up. LA has been a great team at home this year, probably one of, if not the best records at home ice in the NHL this year. So that's a little bit daunting, especially if you give LA home ice advantage in the series. Now, that said, the Oilers in the final 3 games can kind of control their own fate. Tonight against Winnipeg at 5 p.m. starts that quest. But there is still some other stuff here for the Oilers where, you still got to overcome the injury bug, and there's Trent Frederick possibly not being available for game one. You got Zach Hyman, who all of a sudden has been kind of a question mark here over the past few weeks. Leon Draisaitl's still a question mark. Connor McDavid, how healthy is he really, is kind of a question mark. Matthias Ekholm, like I mentioned, if he's out for the season. That's funny because I did the injury update yesterday talking about how one of them might miss game one between Hyman and Ekholm, and then all of a sudden about an hour later, just as I'm laying down to watch some TV, there goes the update on Ekholm that he's possibly out until the start of next year. It is absolutely wild what has happened with this Edmonton Oilers squad in terms of injuries, and honestly as well what's happened down there in Bakersfield this year. The Oilers, to their effect, are capped out. That's why we haven't seen Matt Savoy join the squad. But unfortunately, as well, that kind of leaves you in a situation where you're just playing whoever's left standing. The Bakersfield Condors, the last 2 games, have played 11-6. Quite honestly, that's what's happening down there. They're playing a forward short right now. And if you looked at that lineup, you wouldn't recognize more than 2 names kind of deal. So it's been a very interesting year in the Oilers organization overall. At one point, and I think that still holds true today, is that 40% of the signed players out of the 50 allowable under the NHL rules are currently injured. So you're talking 20 plus out of 50 on contract with the big club are currently injured right now in the Oilers organization. That is absolutely insanity when you look at kind of what the Oilers have had for injury luck over the past several years. Like I said, now coming into tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets, and of course missing Ekholm probably the rest of the way at bare minimum, and Trent Frederick and all those, you are talking about a team that is going to have, in my best estimation, 200 plus man games lost this year, and I don't think we lost more than maybe 150 the past few years. So you start talking about losing players and substantial players. We're not talking about, Matthias Janmark, who scored less than 5 goals this year. You're not talking about losing him for 3 days or 4 days in a row every few months. No, you're talking about losing Matthias Ekholm. You're talking about losing Zach Hyman multiple times, Leon Draisaitl multiple times, Connor McDavid multiple times. And all of a sudden, here you have a situation where you're just limping into the playoffs, but you still actually control your destiny to some degree here entering play against the Winnipeg Jets. A big 2 points or at least an overtime loss here would be absolutely massive for the Edmonton Oilers. But that said, to get on to the LA Kings series, what it's really going to come down to, I hate to use the injury excuse, but I don't think the Oilers are, if they lose, going to be healthy enough to win. That's where it comes down to, is even if you have everybody playing, I don't know if everybody's playing at 100%, and I think the LA Kings this year are just that much stronger that if you're not at 100%, the Oilers won't be able to give them enough of a run for their money on home ice. That if LA takes the first two, especially if they have home ice, it'll be a steep hill to climb the rest of the way, and that's scary because I you know what, I have faith that the Oilers goaltending, anytime they match up against the LA Kings, can beat them. That's never been the concern. It's just when everybody up front and everybody on the back end is not healthy enough to compete against a team like LA. That's the other side. It's not like LA's the second wild card team in every scenario we faced them in 4 years. They're a top 3 team in the Pacific Division all of those 3 years. So what you look at now in year number 4 is they're still a top 3 team in the Pacific Division. They're not playing the goofy 1-3-1 no more. And now all of a sudden you got the situation where they can compete against this Oilers squad. Whether you want to say it's because they got Warren Fogle or not, I don't think so. Fogle was a scratch in the playoffs for us last year, so remember where his compete level gets tenured in the playoffs. But yeah, it's kind of one of those now where the Oilers, you miss Ekholm, okay, that's not an excuse. But suddenly you start having guys dropping like flies like they have been over the past 4 weeks. Well, you know what, if you're losing 2 guys a game, and you get into game 4 against the LA Kings and you got James Hamblin centering your second line. No offense to my man James Hamblin, but he's in over his head a little bit there with only 20 games in the NHL and no playoff experience. If you got that situation happening, which I'm sorry, that's where I don't have faith. It's not that I don't have faith the Oilers can win the Stanley Cup this year, because anything's possible. You just have to get in. But it's very much so for the Oilers to have a great playoff run. Whoever's healthy has to stay exactly at that percentage the whole way. That's the problem. Is you cannot afford to have Connor McDavid skating around on one leg. You can't afford to have Leon Draisaitl unable to bend over. You are going to need everybody as close to 100%, especially with Ekholm out, or you're not going to get there. And if anyone deteriorates from game 1 to even game 4 of the first round, you are going to be hooped. This team, as we've currently seen it in the configurations, we've seen it without Connor and Leon for a little bit, without Matthias Ekholm, without Jake Wallman. They don't have it to get it done. And I don't mean that offensively to the Edmonton Oilers. I just mean it's reality, right? Like, the Oilers are not meant as a team to be missing $40 million of payroll from the roster and go win the Stanley Cup. That's not how the team is constructed. That's not how it's meant to be. And if you want to say, well, the Oilers are a sorry, sad sack group of players without Connor and Leon, that 100%. But again, that's why you're also spending $26 million on 2 guys, or whatever it is, $20 million still between Connor and Leon right now. Is when you invest that much in those players, they should make that much of a difference. And Connor and Leon truly do. Again, when you allow Connor Brown, when you allow Matthias Janmark, when you allow Adam Henrique to have a role where they can succeed, they will succeed. If you're expecting them to be top 6 players, they will not succeed long term. So that's kind of where we find ourselves today, friends. We've locked in the matchup against the LA Kings. We play the Winnipeg Jets in full control of our home ice destiny still at this point here tonight. And then, of course, the Calgary Flames, like I said, keep watching that story, because if they can squeak in, they got to win the last 3. But if they can do it and St. Louis or Minnesota lose one of their games remaining, both teams have one, guess what? The Calgary Flames will be in the playoffs, and we can line up the Flames in round number 2 if we really, truly want, if they can find a way to knock off somebody. So it might be round 2 or 3. I don't know how that math would work, but watch out for Calgary as well. They're a fun team to watch, I will tell you that. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. I am up on out of here. You have yourselves a great day. Unless anything changes, I'm done for the day. Have a good one.